Hi, everyone, and welcome to 24/7's Candidate Appreciation Week webinar focusing on in-demand roles and what you need to know to succeed. My name is Catherine, and I'm the marketing specialist with 24/7, and today we have Nabil, our vice president of our Seattle office, and he's here to walk us through everything that you need to know regarding data analytics, the skills needed, experience you should get, and what hiring managers are looking for in those candidates. So Nabil, thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. What is a data analyst?
So a data analyst is really a data guru, the one person on your team that's going to be able to take all of this data that's flowing in from different resources, whether that be from social media or from Google, just search engines, or from anything you're using to interact with your customers. And your data analyst is taking all this data and really digesting it and putting it into a usable, readable format for other team members to use to be able to make decisions off of.
Awesome. So if I were, a candidate looking to get into data analytics, what are kind of the skills that I would need?
Absolutely. Now, it starts with Excel pretty much everywhere. That's sort of the baseline for being able to work with data and be able to manipulate that data to create information and maybe create charts or sheets that is going to be usable by other business leaders. Now, it gets a little bit more technical from that because a lot of these companies that are providing data are putting it into their own platform. So Google, for example, is putting everything into Google Analytics, and analysts are going to be able to work with that to be able to pull data from there. A lot of the older media companies are using their own tools like Omniture or Adobe Marketing Cloud, so you might need to be familiar with that. You may also need to be familiar with some of the go-to social tools like HubSpot or Sprinkler, or maybe some of the email marketing tools like Marketo to be able to really pull that data from various resources and put it into compile it into a usable format.
Awesome. So how do you kind of suggest candidates get experience in this field?
You really just have to start by getting onto one of the platforms and playing around with the tools. So most companies will use different platforms, but I mentioned a lot of folks will use Google Analytics. So it doesn't hurt to just start by getting onto Google Analytics and running it for yourself, playing around with some of the tools within it, being able to pull data from it yourself. Because then by the time you get into an interview, you can say, yes, I am familiar with the interface and I do know how to pull information from it. A lot of these programs have trial versions, especially if you're a student, that you're going to be able to download and use for free and be able to play around with the tools yourself.
Awesome. So kind of in addition to, playing around with these tools and, really having that knowledge and experience, what kind of specifics are you seeing that hiring managers are looking for in data analytics?
Sure. Being able to show off some experience, actually having run maybe a Google Ads campaign or having pulled campaign information on behalf of a client is helpful. So being able to take on maybe pro bono work or taking freelance work where you're saying, hey, here's a mom and pop retail shop. Can I help you kind of pull data on your users? I'll do that for free so that I can get some of this experience on my resume for me. So being able to really do a deeper dive into an actual customer, even if it's a small company that maybe can't afford to hire a full-time data analyst, spending 5 hours a week pulling data from them and making charts off of that is very helpful for a hiring manager to see.
That's great. So if you were to kind of summarize, everything we've discussed and, the skills and the experience and kind of the specifics hiring managers are looking for, what would you say are kind of like your top points and just kind of like advice to set candidates up for success within this field?
Sure. I think being familiar with the tools and the constantly changing tools is helpful. This is one of those spaces, one of those industries where new platforms and tools are coming out pretty much every year. So number one is being kind of up to date with those and constantly doing research and being online and playing with these things. The next biggest thing I would say is being able to actually communicate that information effectively. There's a lot of data junkies that are so good at pulling data, but can't necessarily communicate or make recommendations off of it very well. But just being able to relay what you're seeing and turn that into an effective, usable strategy is very important as well. So just those really strong communication skills that are going to make that analyst stand out from being just that data junkie to actually being a subject matter expert on how to use data properly. Say those are probably number one, and number two, being able to pull the data and then actually be able to communicate and make business decisions off of it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nabil, for all of your insights. I definitely learned a thing or two today, and thank you to everyone who attended our webinar. So for more insights on our in-demand roles and all of the other roles that we are hiring for, be sure to follow us on social media for in-depth tips, tricks, and resources to get you one step closer to finding your dream job. Thanks, everyone.